Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and in today's video I'll be sharing with us how to cut and sew this bustier top with a ruffled sleeve. Okay, we're going to be cutting directly on our fabric. I'm going to be showing us how to eliminate zipper bulge and how to go about your ruffle sleeve. All right, so if all of this is what you are interested in learning, you definitely want to keep on watching. And guys, we just got to 5,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing with all of your friends. I would not have gotten this far without you guys. I'm so grateful. So let's get to the video. So to make this blouse, you will need a 1-inch elastic. You need a zipper. You need an interfacing. I'll be using a paper stay here. You need your lining, and then you need your fabric. I'm using an African print fabric, and I have about 1 yard here. So let's get to it. The first thing I'll do is to put my fabric on fold using my hip circumference divided by 4 plus extra 5 inches for allowance. Okay, next I'll come down from the top of my fabric by 1 inch to get my starting line. So that is where I'm going to be taking all vertical measurement. Now this is an off-shoulder blouse, and to get that I'm going to be subtracting some inches from my full blouse length to get my actual length. Okay, so for me the off-shoulder number I'm going to be using is 6 inches. So I'm going to be placing that 6 inches on my starting line, and then I will chalk down my bust point, my under bust, my half length, and also my blouse length. Okay, so I'm just going to make these lines visible, then I'll connect all of them into a straight line. The next thing I will do is to chalk half of my nipple to nipple measurement on the bust point line, the under bust, the half length, and the blouse length, and then I'll connect all of them into a straight line. So my nipple to nipple is 6.5 and half of that is 6.25. So that's exactly what I'm chalking down in this video. So right now the next thing I will do is to take my under bust tightening. So on the part towards me, which is to the folded part, which is the center front, I'm going to be marking half of an inch. If you are on a bigger side, let's say a plus size, your breast is big, you can take 1 inch on that part. And on the other side, I'm going to be taking 1.25. Again, if you are bigger than me, I'm a size 6 and I don't have a big breast, so that's why I'm taking this measurement. So if your bust is fuller, you want to take something around 1.5 inches. Okay, then I'm going to connect all of that into a straight line like this from the under bust down to my blouse length. Now on the part going towards the side, I'm going to be using my curved ruler to connect a curve from my under bust to my bust point like this. And on the part going towards the center front, I'm going to be using the straight part of my ruler to connect from the under bust to my bust point, and then I'm going to be extending my line to my chest line like this. Now the next thing I will do is to determine my over bust tightening. So because I'm on a petite side, a small size, so on this line here I'm going to be coming out by 1 inch, but if you have a fuller breast, you can do 1.5. all right, so I'm going to be using my curved ruler to connect from that point to the bust point line like this, as you can see. Now the next thing I will do is to mark my actual chest line. Okay, so still placing my tape at the starting point, I'm going to place my tape on my neckline, all right, which is 6 inches, and I'm going to come down to 7 inches, which is my chest line, and then I'll connect that into a straight line just so I can chalk down my bust circumference. Okay, so now I'm going to be marking my horizontal measurement. So on my chest line, I'm going to be going in by quarter of my bust circumference, which is 8.5. okay, and on the waistline I will go with quarter of my waist circumference, which is 6.5. then I'm going to be replacing that intake, which is about 1.75 inches on that same line here. All right, and then on the M line, which is the blouse length, I'll be taking my hip circumference divided by 4. I'll also replace the that I took as well. Then I'm going to be connecting all of the points together with my ruler. Now the next thing I'll do is to add my stitching allowance. Okay, so the first allowance we're going to put into consideration is the allowance to join the 2 pieces together, which is about 1 inch, and then I'm going to be adding extra 1.5 inches for my actual seam allowance. Okay, so I have a total allowance of 2.5 inches. Please pay attention at this point because you are drafting directly on the fabric in order to avoid issue. So 1 inch allowance to join the darts together, and then you add extra inches for your actual seam allowance. So this other inches for seam allowance depends on you, whatever allowance you're comfortable using to join your front and back piece together. Go ahead and do it. For me, I'm using 1.5 inches, and that 1 inch extra 1 inch for joining the darts together, so I have a total of 2.5 inches. So on my over bust line, I'm going to be connecting a curve from that dart intake down to my chest line like this. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is to come up from that edge from the bottom by about 3 inches, just to give it a little bit of curve in that area. So go up by 3 inches, and then I'll use my curved ruler to connect the points back to the other dart leg, just as shown in the video. So after this, I'm going to be adding stitching allowance to the upper part of my blouse and also to the lower part. So on the lower part, I'm going to be marking 1/2 inch all round for my stitching allowance. Okay, and so I'm just going to follow the curve and draw my stitching allowance of about 1/2 inch like this. And then coming to the upper part, I'm also going to be marking 1/2 inch stitching allowance all the way around like this. Just follow exactly what I'm doing in the video and you're going to get it. So now I'm just going with my scissors and then cut out my pieces just as shown in the video. Please pay close attention to the areas that I'm cutting out, just so you don't make mistake when cutting yours.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. Damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait.
So to cut the back pattern or the back pieces, I have 2 pieces of fabric folded on top of each other like this. And the next thing I'll be doing is to also mark my starting line as usual, and from that starting line I will take all vertical measurements. The next thing I'll do now is to mark my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to be marking 1.5 inches from the top of my fabric down to the hem of my fabric. So after this, I'll start taking my vertical measurement. Still take note of my off shoulder, which is 6 inches. So I'm placing that 6 inches on the starting line, and then from there I'll chalk my half length, which is 16 inches. I'll chalk the blouse length, which is 24 inches. Okay, so after this, I'm just going to mark it across just for me to draw a straight line, and then I'll use my straight ruler to connect all the points together, just as shown in the video. I forgot to mention, I also mark my chest line. You remember the front part ends on the chest line, so the back is also going to start from there. The next thing I'll do now is to measure out half of my nipple to nipple measurement. I'm going to be placing this measurement starting from my zipper allowance line. Okay, so I'm going to mark that from the top all the way to the bottom, just as shown in the video, and after that I will connect the points together with my straight ruler. So after this, the next thing to do is to take our dart. Okay, on the waistline I'm going to be coming in by 1/2 inch on both sides, which makes a total of 1 inch for my dart, and I'll use my ruler to connect from the chest line to that 1/2 inch mark on the half length, and I'll also do the same to connect it to the blouse length, just as shown in the video. Okay, then after this I will proceed to mark my horizontal measurement. So on the chest line I'm going to be marking 1/4 of my bust circumference, and then I will add a seam allowance of 2.5 inches. Remember, 1 inch out of the 2.5 inches is to join the dart together, and the remaining 1.5 will be for my seam allowance. So I'll go ahead and mark quarter of my waist circumference on my waistline, and then I'm going to be replacing that 1 inch dart and also add 2.5 inches, 1 inch to join the darts together and 1.5 inches for seam allowance. I'll repeat the same thing on my blouse length. Hip circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch to join the darts together, 1.5 inch to join my front and back together, which is the seam allowance, which makes a total of 2.5 inches allowance that I added to this. All right, then I'm going to use my ruler to connect all the points together. Okay, so on this hemline, I'm also going to come up by 3 inches. Okay, just as we did for the front part, come up by 3 inches and use your ruler to connect it. Then after that, you are going to come down from your chest line by 1 inch, and then you're going to use your straight ruler to connect it back to the actual measurements, not to the allowance line. Okay, just notice how I'm connecting it in this video. It's just as simple as that. Okay, so now to eliminate zipper bulge, what I'm just going to do is to come in by 0.75 inches on my waistline like this. From the zipper allowance line, go in by 0.75 inches, and from that new 0.75 inches mark, then mark outward your actual zipper allowance, which for me is 1.5. And I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect the points together like this. So I'm going to have something that looks like a curve on that waistline. You will notice that that part went inside, so that's just the purpose. With this, there's not going to be a zipper bulge on your dress. Okay, your dress is just going to come out perfect. Next thing I'm going to do now is to add stitching allowance to the upper part. So on this part, I'm just going to add 0.5 inches all the way around, and also to the lower part, which is my blouse length, I will be adding ½ inch stitching allowance, and I'm just going to connect all of the points together, and then I will cut my pattern. Okay, we are basically done with the drafting of this cloth, both the front and the back. It's very easy, simple and straightforward. Okay, and with this, you're not even wasting so much fabric. If the sole purpose of drafting pattern is to conserve your fabric, with this method, with the way I did it in this video, you already know how much fabric you need to put on fold, and that way you're going to be managing your fabric very, very well. So let's get to the sewing part.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too.
So this is what all the pieces looks like. Okay, this is the front part, this is the center part, the side front, and also this is the back part. Okay, so what I'll go and do now is to cut lining fabric for all of this. So I'm done cutting my fabric, my lining for all the pieces, and I also ironed out paper stay to only the front piece. Okay, the fabric, my actual fabric for the front, that is the only part I added paper stay. So what I will go ahead and do now is to start joining all the pieces together. See the way I'm arranging them. Okay, so I'm going to arrange them this way and then put them right side facing each other, and I'm going to stitch using ½ inch. I will also repeat whatever I do on the actual fabric to the lining. And moving to the back parts, I will join the two pieces together like this using ½ inch, and I will repeat the same thing on the lining part as well. Then I will come back and show us what it looks like. So after joining all of the pieces together, this is what we have it looking like. Okay, I've also gone ahead to open press all my seams. As you can see, this is the front part and this is the back part. Okay, as you can see, the front, the bust area is sitting so well, is well contoured for my small size. Okay, so if you follow the same method, you are going to see how well this comes out. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to place the lining on the actual fabric like this, and then I'm going to be stitching all around by ½ inch. I'll do the same thing on all of the pieces, and then you are going to leave out a space of about 4 inches at one point. That is where you're going to be turning out your fabric from. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. Now, to cut the ruffles, you need a long piece of fabric, although that depends on how full you want your ruffles to be. For me, I have the length of about 78 inches, okay, and the width of this is 8 inches when opened, and when I fold it into two, I have 4 inches. So if you want your ruffles to be fuller than mine, you saw how it looks like from the beginning of this video, you can make yours longer. You can do about 100, 150 and so on, depending on how full you want it to be and for how wide you want it to be as well. If you want it smaller than mine, you can reduce the length I use here, and if you want it bigger than mine, you can also increase it. Okay, so I have 78 inches in length and 8 inches in width. And what I'm going to do now is to fold the piece together like this, as you can see, and then I'm going to further fold it into two. What I'm trying to achieve here is to make the mouth penciled, okay, the part that is going to be joined to my fabric. I want that place to be penciled. I don't want it to be big like it is, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So go ahead and fold your fabric into 4 like this, and on that part that is folded, you're going to come out by 2 inches. Okay, come out by 2 inches from this part that is folded and make a mark there. Then you're going to slightly connect it back into the rest of the fabric. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. If you don't understand what I'm saying, just watch what I'm doing in the video and you're going to get it. Okay, so after doing all of that, I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut it out. So you're going to see how that looks like very, very soon. So I'm done cutting. As you can see, this is the effect I was talking about, the penciled effect. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead and fold my fabric into two, fold it in halves, and then I'm going to stitch around by 1/2 inch. So after stitching, this is what I have it looking like. What I'm going to do now is to flip it over to the right side. Okay, I'm just going to use my safety pin to turn it to the right side, and after that I'm going to cut the elastic. For the length of my elastic, I'm going to be cutting out 19 inches. And how do I get this 19 inches? This is a measurement I got from measuring from my chest line, from the top of my chest where I want my top to end. Take the tape across my neck to the other side. Okay, I'm going to leave on the screen how to do that. So that's how I got my 19. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do now is to use my safety pin to pass the elastic through the channel that I initially created. Okay, so just watch what I'm doing. It's very, very simple. So once you're done doing that, this is what you should have your sleeve looking like. As you can see, the sleeve is ready. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to attach the sleeve to my fabric. So what I'm just going to do is from that joining line, okay, I'm going to be coming out by 1 inch towards the side, and that is where I'm going to be placing my ruffle. So for this, you can stitch your ruffle to your fabric on like sort of like a top stitch, but I will not be doing that here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this fabric inside house, and then I'm going to open up that space, insert my sleeve and sew it from inside, then turn it outside, just because I want a neat finishing. Okay, but if you do not want to go through this stress, you can just top stitch on it. So after doing that, this is what I have it looking like. As you can see, my bustier is standing so well. Imagine that I padded this outfit. Imagine how it's going to look like. So this is it. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to close up that space that I use in turning out my fabric. Okay, so after that, I'm going to be placing the back pieces on it like this, and I'm just going to stitch the sides by 1 inch. Now remember, when I was cutting this fabric, I left a stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. I used 1/2 inch to turn both the fabric and the lining of each pieces to get a neat finishing. So after taking out that 1/2 inch, I am basically left with 1 inch, which is what I'm going to be joining with. And with that, we've come to the end of the tutorial. This is how the top looks on me. This is the outcome. As you can see, it's so beautiful, and this is actually beginners friendly. If you're a beginner, I believe you should be able to make this if you follow the step So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you're yet to subscribe to my channel, kindly click on the subscribe button, turn on post notification bell, and do not forget to like this video if you gain 1 or 2 from it. Also share this video with your friends, and see you in my next video.